Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am one of your hosts, Memo, and right beside me, we've got Hoops. How are you doing on this depressing final week of NBA basketball?
Um, I'm doing just okay, I guess. Yeah, obviously not the best. Things could be quite better, quite honestly. Um, but yeah, quite honestly, dark times for us as Lakers fans. Obviously, and possibly the very worst thing that could happen is the Celtics winning the championship. Because especially because we were tied with them at 17 championships. And now that they won, they regained the lead. That's annoying. Um, but that just means that we need to bounce back and win our 18th soon and rematch them. Hopefully, that's what the Lakers front office and players are going to play with a light under their fire and want to regain tie. I hope so.
I
But
hope
yeah,
so too.
overall, I'm doing just okay. How are you doing?
Clearly, by how we're dressed, very sad. We decided to wear all black because we're mourning. We're mourning after this horrible tragedy. It's
Yeah,
up there with.
liking.
Never mind. I,
Uh,
I was gonna say a joke, but it might be too far. Uh, but yeah, it's not one of
uh,
the best days in American history, I believe. so
mhm.
that's why we're wearing all
Yeah,
black. It's a depressing way to end the season, especially since this is our very first season where we're podcasting and we're following the league in depth as possible, trying to talk about the season and it's depressing how this is the way it ends. Like this is our very first
yeah,
season talking about
um,
on a podcast, and it ends with a Celtics championship.
yeah. It's rough. And I will say this season definitely had the ups and the downs. There were a lot of cool, exciting moments, and then there were a lot of not so good moments. I feel like definitely in the off season, maybe if we want to revisit, we could potentially do like a hindsight on our overall overview or whatnot on the season. But quite honestly, I mean, quite honestly, I feel like this season compared to like a lot of those other seasons recently has was a little bit lackluster, to be honest. Like especially like the playoffs. It wasn't really as exciting as like some other years. And the Celtics winning the championship was definitely the cherry on top, but like the best series I think was the Knicks and the Sixers series, and that was in the first round.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then like the Nuggets and the Timberwolves, that was a pretty good series. But then that was in the second round. So then everything from there went downhill. Like all the other series were just not that exciting.
I like
So yeah,
Mavs and Timberwolves, also Mavs and OKC. I thought they were fine. They had their moments.
yeah. I just feel like the Mavs and Timberwolves. What made me not get into it as much is the fact that the series ended 4-1 when it probably should
Yeah,
have been closer,
that's true,
honestly.
but there
But
was a Luka game winner, which was nice.
yeah, yeah. And I will say, looking back in hindsight, the Timberwolves losing that series, I think, was definitely a lot more disappointing on my end because I feel like the Timberwolves could have definitely given the Celtics more trouble than the Mavs did.
I feel the same
Like,
way, but with the Nuggets. I feel like if the Nuggets was
I
there
think
in the finals, they would have stopped them.
I think either of them could have, the Wolves or the Nuggets. I just don't think the Mavs were. I think the problem is it's all about matchups, quite honestly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
the Mavs just happen to match up good against the Wolves, not good against the Celtics. But a lot of people, including me, honestly, believe that if Denver would have beaten the Timberwolves, they probably would have beaten the Mavs. and then they probably would have played the Celtics. And quite honestly, the Nuggets might be repeat champions right now.
Yeah, they have
So
nobody
like,
to
yeah,
stop Jokic, so I believe you. Yeah.
yeah. And I know like a lot of the Lakers fans were like really happy to see Denver lose. At what expense? The Celtics winning the championship? No, thank you. Like I would
Exactly.
rather Denver repeat. Damn it.
Yeah, as much as
Yeah,
I hate
that
how
was
the
disappointing.
Nuggets like destroy the Lakers, I am a Nuggets fan. I'm a Jokic fan. I'm just not a Mike Malone fan, but uh I do like the
Yeah,
Nuggets.
I yeah I like the Nuggets as a team, and for the most part, most of their players, it's mostly just Mike Malone that is annoying. Yeah, but anyhow, just some brief little thoughts on the season overall, I guess. Um, that being said, the NBA season just ended on Monday, I believe, or maybe it was two.
It was
Yeah, I
Monday.
think it was Monday.
It was a
Yeah,
Monday.
Monday.
By the time this episode
Yeah,
is released, it would have been a week since the NBA season
yeah,
ended.
I know that time went by kind of quickish, I
It
guess.
it did it did, but
Yeah,
yeah, I guess we could talk about it. Our plan for this episode is to recap the finals, but mostly focus on Game Five since that's the only game we haven't talked about on the pod, and then we will go over a few NBA news. I think moving forward, we'll implement some NBA news with our episodes. So no matter the topic, we'll add some NBA news that pops up throughout the off season because we will be posting episodes during the off season. Maybe not every week because like we've got lives, we have plans, but we'll try our best to
yeah,
post as much as we can. We'll try to stay consistent. And then at the very end, we need to do spin the wheel because last week we did spin the wheel, but I messed up. I didn't record my mic, so I had to cut it all out for last week's episode. But hopefully, I won't make the same mistake. Um, but yeah, let's talk about the NBA Finals, which was not the most exciting, as you mentioned. This playoffs wasn't the best, and I feel like the finals wasn't the best either because most of the games, I think you talked about this a little bit earlier, felt like the same every time we went into it. The Mavs would start off hot, but then the Celtics would catch up quickly in the first. They will build a lead by halftime and then blow out by the second half. That happened in the first game, the second game. The third game is was a lot more competitive. It was closer in the fourth quarter, even though there was a huge gap. They were able to bring it in by like 8 points, but that was the Luka sixth foul controversy, which we talked about last week. If you want to hear our thoughts on that, but yeah, Luka fouled out. Kyrie Irving tried his best to save the day, but couldn't, and they ended up losing Game 3. Game 4 was a Mavs blowout that was super exciting for us. We thought maybe they had a chance because of how dominant of a win that was. That was the third largest margin in an NBA Finals victory, or loss, so however you want to put that. But then it led to Game 5 at Boston, and I feel like it was very similar to Game 1 and Game 2, where the Mavs started hot, then the Celtics started creeping in, getting closer, then they built a huge lead, and then a blowout. I wouldn't even say the Mavs started hot, actually. Luka was actually struggling
didn't
early.
obviously.
It was a low scoring game, so it was actually worse to game 1 and 2. But I'll let you take the
Worse, yeah.
lead. Like, what were your thoughts on the final game of the season?
Yeah, so early on, neither team could necessarily get it going on offense, as it was a really low scoring first quarter. ultimately, Celtics started to turn it on. Mavericks, they just unfortunately lost their shooting touch that they had in Game 4. And they played more like they did in the first 3 games, which is quite frustrating. And the Mavs did not even lead in the game once. Celtics went up by as much as 26 at one point, and they just rolled to an easy win in a closeout game. The Mavs just didn't really look like they really wanted the game, and it's unfortunate because like we know that they wanted the game, but they didn't play like they wanted the game. For the Mavs, Luka, he put up 28. He tried, man. He tried to put the team on his back. But the rest of the cast, they just didn't get the job done. And Kyrie only put up 15 points in an elimination game. That's not going to cut it. Josh Green put up 14. Derek Jones put up 10. And no one else put up double digits for the Mavs. Celtics just clearly proved that they wanted it much more. Jason Tatum and putting up 31 points. Jaylen Brown putting up 21 points. Drew Holiday put up 15, and Derek White put up 14. Kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier towards the intro of the episode, but yeah, that's the way the season ended, and to say the least, it was quite a lackluster NBA season. And hopefully, Luka and the Mavs use this loss as a learning lesson and they can get back to the finals and win a championship soon in the near future. It's like, as we know, Celtics lost in the finals 2 years ago against the Warriors, and 2 years later, they get back and then they win it. So hopefully, if the Mavs can learn from this and make the adjustments and do something similar, then hopeful that they'll definitely be back and win the championship soon.
I have a question.
For the most part, honestly,
like, how likely do you believe the Mavs will be back? Because part of me, I wouldn't say it was a fluke that they got here. It was just that they, as you've mentioned before, they peaked at the right moment. You know, we never thought that they were the best team in the West. We thought that the Nuggets and Timberwolves had a better opportunity making the finals. We ended up being wrong, but still, they didn't seem like they were going to be the best team in the West, and they were going to be able to defeat the Celtics. So, do you think the Mavs will be back sooner than later, or do you think that it might have been like a one-time thing and it's gonna be a bit till the Mavs are back?
Hard to say because obviously Western Conference is really strong and obviously much stronger than the Eastern Conference. But like, yeah, I do think that they definitely peaked at the right time. Some other teams just didn't show up at the wrong time, and that definitely helped them a lot. So I think this could be answered in several different ways. First off, do I think that they'll be back next year? Absolutely not. Do I think they can be back maybe within the next 5 years? I think they could be back within the next 5 years, but quite honestly, 5 is like kind of a wide margin. So,
I think that's fair, though.
Do I think they will be back? Yeah, do I think they will be back sooner or later? I think they can. But there's a lot of things that need to be factored. Like, for example, is the Luka and Kyrie tandem gonna be together for a good long term, at least for like a handful of years remaining? Another question could be, what's the landscape of the rest of the Western Conference? Like, for example, you would assume probably LeBron will be retired within like 5 years, maybe. But then it's another thing is like, at that time, for example, Jokic is going to be older. Is he still going to be playing at a very high level? I guess the Timberwolves, was Ant as more of like a veteran by then? Is he gonna really be much better to the point where he can be like, I guess a true trusted leader in the sense like going as one of the all time greats, something like that. Um, and then like those other teams, like for example the Suns, like is Devin Booker still there? Where is Kevin Durant by then and all that stuff? I think that the Mavs can definitely get back to the finals, but I don't know how soon exactly. Because I know for a fact that definitely the competition is going to be quite high next year. And like, I'm gonna be honest, I think that the Mavs would be lucky to like be back to the Western Conference Finals next year. Quite honestly, um, it's doable. But like quite honestly, like the Nuggets and the Timberwolves probably, in my opinion, I kind of always considered that as the real Western Conference Finals. And it depends on like how the seeding pans out, but like if seeding goes the way it should, I feel like at the moment those are the two best teams in the Western Conference realistically. So Mavs could get back, but it will be challenging. I think they'll definitely like be in position though. In the next, that would be my honestly detailed descriptive prediction, shall I say? But what do you think, Memo? Do you think they're a one and done type and they won't be back, or you think they can definitely be back to the finals?
I think they need to work on the roster if they want to come back to the finals. We saw how like the role players didn't come through. Kyrie Irving didn't come through. I don't think Luka can go to the finals or win a finals if Luka's the second best player. Even though there was a lot of hype behind the two and they're like the best, most skilled offensive backcourt of all time. Uh, Kyrie did not prove that to be the case at all when they were actually at the finals, which is definitely one of my biggest concerns for the Mavs. But to be honest, with and like as you mentioned, the West is so good. Like you talked about the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. OKC are going to be better next year. We don't know how great the Grizzlies are going to be with Ja back. Like they've been
But they'll
a
probably be good, healthy.
yeah, they've been a consistently really good team. They did lose Steven Adams, so that's something that they gotta figure out, like what they're doing in the center position. But still, like they're gonna be good. It's our Lakers are always in the mix, even at like as a
Yeah,
play-in team, or is it the play-in team? They're still like
yeah,
dangerous out there. So I feel like they
yeah.
need to work on
Oh,
their roster a lot in order to come back to the finals. But I think my more controversial take is that I don't even think the Celtics will be back next year. Like as dominant as they were, we all know that this is like a band-aid ring. Like this is a Mickey Mouse road to the finals. They did not face any superstars. Uh, if they
no one.
depending on the matchup, I think they could face some like real trouble in the playoffs because as dominant as they were in the finals, it's not like they were facing the Nuggets. They were facing the Mavs, who were who have a talented backcourt, but Kyrie didn't come through, and Luka was still technically injured. Like he didn't play like he was injured, but his knee was bleeding like every game. You could see it like every game. It's bleeding. So again, the I feel like the Celtics, as great as they are, I think with a healthy East, they will have a lot of a harder chance to repeat. I think
Oh,
if
for sure. And I guess Since we're on the topic, which team in the Eastern Conference do you think will have the best chance of taking down the Celtics next season? I know who I believe, but I guess I can let you answer first, and then I'll
That's
say who I think.
that's a good question. There's three in mind, depending on how this offseason goes. Um, I think
Yeah,
if the Sixers make a move to get a better wing in their uh team, like there was rumors about Paul George. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I think
yeah.
they got
I heard that
cap
apparently
space. Like I think they got money
I
this
heard
year.
that apparently the Sixers kind of like are steering off of Paul
Yeah.
George. Like apparently he's asking for too much money and they don't want to pay him or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know why they don't want him because they definitely do want like a superstar. But yeah. Go on. I think Philly could definitely be in the mix potentially.
Yeah, depending on what they do this offseason, like they could definitely be in the
Yeah,
mix if Joel Embiid is healthy as well. He is a playoff choker, but
yeah.
if
This year he's better, but like, can I
yeah,
trust him to do that every year though? I don't know.
yeah, this year he was better, so maybe he will play like an MVP caliber player, and there's no way the Celtics can stop Embiid if he plays like how he usually plays in the regular season. Uh, I
Yeah.
honestly, as much as I shit on them a lot, the Heat with Jimmy Butler, I feel like they got the chip on their shoulder to be able to defeat the Celtics once again. But
Yeah,
honestly,
if he comes back,
yeah, if he comes
because we
back,
don't know what he's going to do in
there
free
is
agency.
turmoil on with that. I forgot about that, but you just reminded me.
Yeah,
And then the last thing, oh, actually, there's several teams. Now thinking about it, Be-
maybe two more teams, huh?
yeah, because
Like
I
I think
think
there are several teams that could honestly.
yeah, I think
Like,
Milwaukee will be better this year.
yeah,
Now that they
they
have
will be
uh Doc, which I know he's not the best coach, but at least he will start the year with Milwaukee and have a training camp with this team. So maybe that will
yeah,
help.
that will help
And we know that Damian Lillard wants to improve on defense. That's what he said himself. So I feel like maybe
Mhm.
they'll come together because we know that Kyrie and Luca didn't work out the first like stint they had together when Kyrie was traded.
Yeah,
I feel like it might be the same thing where yeah, this first stint with Giannis and Dame aren't gonna didn't work out as well as we planned, but maybe the second year they'll mesh a lot better. So that's what I'm trying to bank on. And then lastly, kind of dark horse, the Knicks, just because I feel like they're very gritty. They were doing phenomenal without Julius Randle. Imagine him as another scoring option. That will help tremendously. They do
for
need
sure.
to try their best to keep OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hardenstein because they were vital pieces for their team. But if they're able to keep them and Brunson continues to improve, that's another team that could possibly slow down the Celtics. So
For sure.
I named a bunch of teams. Which teams were you thinking of? Were you similar to me?
Yeah. Um, so I'm gonna start off by saying I think that all of those teams you listed could potentially have a good chance at competing with the Celtics for sure. And like honestly, like I feel like Celtics not getting back to the finals, okay, isn't even that bold because like they shouldn't get back. Honestly, I mean like they look like they're the best team on paper. But like quite honestly, they should not get back, I don't think. Because there's other teams that like literally I think are built to take down that team, quite honestly. And like I was gonna say like one of my like not so bold takes would be that neither of these teams will go back to the finals next year. And like obviously Mavs not going to the back is like a lot more like a lot more like I would say as disrespectful as it sounds, set in stone. like we're very confident they're not going to be back next year. Celtics is a little bit more of a toss up. Like they have a good chance of getting back next year, but quite honestly, like there's other teams that could and honestly should take them down. But without further ado, I'm gonna start off by going over some of those teams that you mentioned. Starting with the Sixers. I think that if they have like a really good off season of addressing like those holes, like obviously let Tobias Harris walk, replace him with a better small forward, like who knows, maybe Paul George.
Tobias Harris over me.
Yeah. Maybe if they want to try to get Jimmy Butler back, that could be an option too. I forgot who were some of the other like players they were trying to target. Honestly, I don't know if the Sixers were like one of the teams that were interested in like Lowry Markkanen or something like that, but he could potentially be a good piece for them if they do want to get him. And like obviously, like if Joel Embiid can stay healthy and play more like he did this playoffs as opposed to his past playoffs, he could definitely be a problem for the Celtics for sure. And then on top of that, Tyrese Maxey only going to keep on getting better. Now, I do have a little bit of concerns with like the Sixers. Like the Celtics, quite honestly, like just own them as far as like recent matchups. Like even Joel Embiid said, like it's not a rivalry. They always kick our ass. And quite honestly, he's not lying. I hope that they can change that. I mean, I like the Sixers much better than the Celtics, even not being like a Sixers fan at all, quite honestly. But it seems like they have a lot of matchup problems for whatever reason, but they definitely have the talent to take them down. So they could definitely be one of those like options for sure. Especially if the Sixers play like they did before Embiid got hurt, when they were like in the top 3 of the Eastern Conference. Definitely a good candidate to take down the Celtics there. And then the next team that you mentioned, the Heat. I think that if the Heat were healthy and Jimmy does return, definitely they have a chance. Because obviously they're the proven team that has taken down the Celtics in the past. I mean, they took them down last year. They took them down in 2020 in the bubble. Obviously, much different teams, but back in the 2010s, the Miami Big Three took down the Boston Big Three. Like history says it that the Heat has just quite honestly had the Celtics number a lot, and obviously the Celtics have beaten the Heat a good amount in the playoffs too, but because they're able to like spread it out a little bit, I think that the Heat, having proven that they could take the Celtics in the past, definitely cannot rule them out. But yeah, definitely a lot will have to depend on Jimmy's decision and the rest of free agency, how they address it. Hopefully the Heat doesn't like take the regular season like I hope that they don't like in a way. I'm trying to think of the right word. I guess like I hope that they don't in a way just like throw some games in the regular season and just try to get in and hope that and pray that will take them far again. Because obviously that worked last year, but this year it didn't quite work in their favor because you don't know when injuries will come in. But like if they are healthy, for sure the Heat can take down the Celtics as they've proven in the past. The next candidate, the Bucks that you mentioned, I think that like talent wise, this is for sure one of the top talented teams in the Eastern Conference. And quite honestly, on paper, they probably are like the second most talented behind Boston in the Eastern Conference. You can even argue maybe their roster is better on paper, but like they didn't play like it obviously. But what you said was true. Like a full off season with Doc Rivers, and after 1 year and under their belt, they could bounce back. And hope so. So obviously, the Bucks added Darvin Ham to their coaching staff as an assistant coach, and like, yes, we all know that Darvin Ham was not a good head coach for the Lakers, but he has continuity with the Bucks, like obviously with Giannis in the past, and like quite honestly, a lot of bad head coaches are not bad assistant coaches. So I think that it's definitely a lot better position for him going back to an assistant than as a head coach. We'll see there. I mean, a lot of people definitely giving the Bucks heat for having both Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham right now, who are two of the more infamous head coaches, shall I say. We'll see what happens there. I will say that Doc Rivers being the head coach there kind of concerns me a little bit because of like the playoff choking and whatnot. Definitely concerns me a bit. But talent wise, the Bucks have it. Obviously, they have won a championship in the past. Also, granted, like the core was much different. They had a different head coach, but to be honest, like I know for a fact that he's able to carry a team. So definitely the Bucks have to be in the conversation for taking out the Celtics. And then as far as the Knicks go, I absolutely agree. Matter of fact, like I think that they had the best chance this year, if not for those injuries. Because like if not for those injuries, for sure they should have beaten the Pacers. Like when they lost to the Pacers, I was honestly so mad because like I thought that they had a chance to maybe like even if they weren't gonna beat the Celtics, I think they would have won like at least 2 games, quite honestly. But if they were healthy, I think they just maybe could have beaten the Celtics, honestly. And because the Knicks were like looking really good before all those injuries piled up, and quite honestly, they probably would have beaten the Pacers in 5 games. Because like game 3, if you recall, that game was really close and should have went the Knicks' way. It didn't. It was game 3 loss that was a turning point because then Indiana destroyed them game 4 and it was practically a blowout every game from there. But honestly, I do think that the Knicks, if they can continue their momentum from this playoffs and they're gonna get back Julius Randle, hopefully OG, because I think he's like entering free agency. Am I right? Or he has like an opt out option, something like that.
Something like that.
But assuming that he comes back and Randall healthy, the Knicks should for sure be back as like a top contender. And if so, quite honestly, in the current situations, I think that the Knicks might just be the top competitor for the Celtics, honestly, in the Eastern Conference. And like I know that regular season games don't really mean a lot when it comes to playoffs. But I remember in April, like the end of the regular season, the Knicks went into Boston and kicked the Celtics' ass, I remember. And when I saw that, I'm like, I saw a lot of promise from that team from there. And I know that's just one game and it's a regular season game and it could have been one bad game for the Celtics. But that game there honestly like proved a little bit to me. Like I think the Knicks really could have had a chance, honestly. And maybe they could next year. But if I were to I guess rank those teams that we listed in order from like most likely to maybe a little bit more of a long shot. This very moment in time, I think I might have to go Knicks had the best shot. And then that's where like I'm having a little bit of trouble ranking them, honestly. Like at this very moment, I want to put the Heat number 2 because they have beaten them in the past, but I don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy Butler. If he leaves and they don't get another superstar in return, the Heat might be eliminated from my list. So I hope that he returns, honestly.
That's why it's kind of tough to talk about this now because we still got free agency coming up. But like, if I could give my quick ranking first, like to give you more time, I would put maybe the Knicks at 1, Milwaukee 2.
Yeah.
I'll say Sixers 3 and fourth Heat.
Eat
Uh,
for.
just with the amount of
Okay.
question mark
I was
for those
thinking,
last two teams.
yeah, I was thinking something like that. I thought about maybe Philadelphia too, but then factoring the fact that they always lose to the Celtics, like it makes me have like a hard time doing that. And like actually, despite the Bucks' disaster this season, from what I recall, they actually went 2-2 against the Celtics. I believe every team won the home games. Like the Bucks won their 2 home games and handily, I believe, and then the Celtics won their 2 home games. And I remember the one game in Boston, the Bucks were down by a lot, and they almost came back, and it was a Bobby Portis led run. So you just never know what could have happened if the Celtics played against a healthy Bucks team. So honestly, I think your order is right. Knicks, then Bucks, then Sixers, and then Heat probably. That being said,
I liked
we
how
talked about.
we
Go ahead.
started talking about Game 5, and then we started talking about something else because Game 5 was just so boring. There was
It was so boring. It was
not
so
much to
bad.
talk about. Like literally in my notes for the third quarter, I wrote down I give up, blowout win, and that's it. Like I gave up taking notes at that point.
There was nothing to talk about. It was pretty much just garbage time
Hardy
up
did
there.
good.
And like,
He was scoring threes like crazy. I'll shout him out.
yeah. And like, it's just such a disappointing way for the season to end. Like, aside from the Celtics winning, like, if it could have at least been a close game and the Mavs went out swinging, it's like, okay, they tried. But like, just for like a blowout like that, man, just makes it so much more disappointing. And I'm gonna say this, okay? Jason Tatum, after winning the finals, an absolute cringe lord,
Yeah, I wanted
tries
to talk
to
about this.
imitate every single like celebration in the past in one night. Kobe's celebration, Kevin Garnett's celebration, Steph Curry's celebration, and then stealing Kanye's
The
line. Like,
Kanye
what the
line.
hell, dude? Like,
That one was
that's
egregious.
honestly, I feel like that was the probably the most cringe one. Like, bruh. Um, yeah, that was really
I
annoying.
will say, I feel like the
And
Kobe one, that one's a stretch. I feel like that was a stretch. I don't think he was posing
yeah,
exactly like Kobe. I don't think he was
it's
trying to be like Kobe with the pose.
it's hard
That
to.
one's a stretch, but the others are pretty cringe.
Yeah, I will say that one, it's hard to say because realistically speaking, we don't know if he was trying to recreate that. But knowing that he is like a really big Kobe fan, he probably had that image in his head. So maybe he really was doing that to imitate Kobe.
I'm sure he
So
wanted
like,
to, but I think he knew that he would get like a
I
lot of
wouldn't.
backlash from it. So that's why I don't think
Yeah.
he actually did it.
So I don't know what to say honestly. Yeah, I do see like you wrote that we were gonna mention that,
Yeah, I
and
wanted to talk about that a little bit
we,
because it was very cringy. The we did
yeah,
it, just copying Kevin Garnett,
yeah.
like his screaming like celebration. I think,
I saw I saw this one post. It said that Jason Tatum really stole Dora's quote. So crazy.
that's stupid, but that's
Yeah,
funny.
it
Uh,
is. Yeah.
there was let me pull up Twitter. If follow our Twitter because I was kind of like on a rampage. I was using our Twitter to just go off on like everybody. Um, but yeah, okay. This is the quote. So apparently, Deuce told Jason Tatum that he's the best in the world, and Jason Tatum's response was like, "Damn, right I am." You didn't even win Finals MVP. How are you the best in the world if you're
Yeah.
not even like you are debatably the best on your team, but not quite. Like I ended up um, posting this side eye pick. Just like what the hell? Like what are you doing? Uh, like
Yeah.
he was doing too
And
much. He
yeah, like
was calling him. He was like saying, "Now y'all gotta call me champs" or something like that. Like with
I I heard about that. I saw that and cringed. Like, yeah, this is like quite honestly, like I will say this. I was not a Jason Tatum fan as a basketball player. It's like now I just don't like him like in general as a person. He's just like so weird, honestly.
yeah,
Like,
he's just cringe. Like I don't hate the guy, but he is very cringy.
yeah,
Like another tweet that I retweeted is Jason Tatum saying what they gonna say now. Uh, after
yeah,
after like the NBA posted some like stats about him and like the people he's being associated with, which is like Hakeem, Jokic, some all time players. And I responded after he said what they gonna say now. I responded with "Where's your Finals MVP? You got carried to a chip. Mickey Mouse rode to the finals. Stop being corny." Like there's a lot you can say after this finals run.
there really is. And yeah, I will say on that topic, I'm definitely really glad that Tatum did not win the Finals MVP and Jaylen Brown won it instead. And I think that Jaylen Brown definitely deserved to win it. And quite honestly, aside from just not being a fan of Tatum, that's not the reason why I believe that Brown deserved it. I think that Brown deserved it because he was just much more consistent overall, not just in the finals, but the overall playoffs. And you can say what you want about like game 4, but like obviously no one on the Celtics did good in game 4. Like even Tatum was bad. I will say that like it would have been really cool if Drew Holiday could have won the Finals MVP. We just knew that it was like a little bit more of a long shot, and I think that Game 4 definitely hurt his chances. But I'm okay with Jaylen Brown winning it. I'm definitely glad that Jason Tatum didn't win it, and
Yeah,
yeah,
same honestly. Like a lot of people were saying that Jason Tatum was actually robbed. Because like looking at the box score, it he ended up having like a pretty good stat line. 22.2 points, 7.8 rebounds, 7.2 assists. The true shooting was actually pretty it was decent, 50.5 with field goal percentage of 38.8. The 3-point percentage was pretty bad, 26.3. But when you compare that with Jaylen Brown, his 3-point percentage was actually worse at 3.5%. Field goal percentage is better, 44%. His true shooting, 53.5. So it's actually really similar to Jason Tatum. And his counting stats were slightly worse than Tatum as well, with 20.8 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game. So, box score wise, Jason Tatum was better. But when you actually watch the games, though, it's not Jason Tatum that's like in charge of the runs that made the blowout wins. It's not Jason Tatum uh, guarding Luka and stopping him. Luka was targeting Tatum. Luka wanted Tatum to guard him because Luka was cooking Tatum, not Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown was phenomenal guarding Luka. So was Holiday. He did a good job as well. Um, it wasn't like Jaylen Brown had the biggest moments with the biggest dunks, biggest blocks, a lot more memorable moments. Jaylen Brown, as you said, was a lot more consistent, and I will say I feel like the stats that Tatum has was elevated a bit because he was playing like the fourth quarter of a blowout win in Game 5. Like,
Yeah.
I will be fair. Like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they were both like kind of stat padding in Game
Yeah,
4. I mean Game 5.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah, they
but
were.
also like Tatum was stat padding in Game 2. Like I mentioned this when we talked about that game. Where he was like a good chunk of his points, even though he only had 18, a good amount of his points was during the fourth quarter when the Mavs benched their starters. So there were some stat padding involved, and uh, and yeah, Tatum did like box score wise have the better stats, but Jaylen Brown was by far their more important player. Defensively, he was a lot more consistent. Offensively, and was in charge of the biggest moments, the biggest runs, and that's why I believe he deserves Finals MVP. I don't think it's as close as people were trying to say it is, even though again the stats do look good.
Yeah, and that I think that's the problem. Like a lot of people look too much into like box score stats, but like there's so much more that you see when you're watching the game like thoroughly in action that like you realize stuff that's not written in the box score. So like yeah, quite honestly, I think that it was without a doubt Jaylen Brown. And people can say what they want about like Tatum should have won it. He had an argument, but I believe it was for sure the right pick that Jaylen Brown wanted instead. And I will say this: the fact that Jaylen Brown not only won the Finals MVP, but he also won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. It's definitely gotta be like a little bit of a slap to the face for Jason Tatum for not getting either of those. Um, yeah, um, I'm totally fine with that. Um,
Say,
obviously, I wish, obviously, I wish the Celtics just would have not won any one shit. Period.
yeah, I wish Luca won
Um,
Finals MVP. That's what I wanted.
yeah, definitely. Um, but if there's any bright spot, which obviously it's not saying much because the champion is still the same, then one of the good things is that Jason Tatum did not win the Finals MVP. And I think that we can do like a little bit of a segue on the that note to I guess what we thought were some of the better things of the Celtics winning a championship. I know there's not a lot probably, but if there's any good things,
Yeah, I
um
did want to be a little more positive. That's why I put this in the notes. Like, what are some of the
yeah,
best outcomes from the Celtics winning a chip? And for me, it's two things. Two things. Al Horford finally winning a championship. Like, he's been in the
I
league for
agree.
so long, been in the playoffs, and been an important contributor to many uh, good basketball teams, and has never won. And now he finally won a championship. So shout out to him. And Drew Holiday. I'm Drew Holiday fan. Like I'm just
Me
a
too.
huge fan of him, especially during his Milwaukee run. Actually, during his Pelicans run as well, I was really rooting for him.
Yeah.
So I was happy that
Honestly,
he
like
won a second chip, and was a little disappointed that he didn't get enough love for Finals MVP. But it was also
agree,
understandable.
definitely. And honestly, I agree with both of those you said. I've always been an Al Horford fan. Particularly his Hawks days. That was his prime, of course. And back when he was like the traditional center, obviously at that time he didn't shoot threes, but he was like very dominant. He didn't need to. And probably like yeah, obviously Al Horford he was better on the Hawks because that was his prime days. But obviously now his game is more flexible because he could shoot threes and um, jumpers. So he just like the way his game has evolved, like very similar to like Brook Lopez, where
That's a good
they used
point.
to not shoot. Yeah, used to not shoot a lot, but then they expanded their range. It's really cool to see those type of like growth in the game, I will say.
My Dominican
And
King.
definitely definitely really well deserved for him to finally win a championship. And then Drew Holiday, I am also a really big fan of it as well as you. I will say this, it is cool that he got another ring. Obviously, we didn't want him to win it with this team, and it was much cooler seeing him win it with the Bucks. But good job. Um, it's cool that he got another one.
Do you
And
think
I
with
go ahead.
these rings, do you think both of these players can make it to the Hall of Fame one day? I've heard some conversation around this, and I'll say maybe not first
I
ballot, but
think
I do think they have a chance, especially Horford. I think he had a pretty good career, including college.
yeah, I think that definitely both of them could make it. Um, I think that like or I agree, probably like second ballot more likely, um, or third, one of those. But I think that both of them do have a very good argument for making it. And I will say, like, Drew, after he won the second championship, I feel like it all but solidifies it for him. Like how much he's done, like on the defensive end, pretty good offense also. Now he has not one but two rings. I think for sure he should make it. And then Al Horford, obviously, like as you mentioned, college days at Florida, he was really good. And then in the NBA, obviously, really dominant, key contributor for all those contending teams he played for. And then finally a champion. Yeah, I think that definitely both of them have very good arguments for making a Hall of Fame. Now going back to Drew Holiday, definitely I have been a fan of his also for quite honestly his entire career. Mainly the Milwaukee days. His Pelicans days, he was also really good. Even his Sixers days when he first started the out his career. I don't know if you remember much about his Sixers days, but he was drafted in 2009. So went to UCLA for college. That was pretty cool. And he got drafted by the Sixers. First year he played in Philly with Andre Iguodala, Elton Brand, Thaddeus Young. Allen Iverson was actually on that team for like 15 games, maybe.
I don't remember
But
that. That's crazy.
yeah, that was actually the his last run in the NBA. I don't remember the reasoning. I think they like cut him in like January that year or something after like a blowout loss in Chicago. I remembered. Um, Maybe he was just like not a good fit, something like that. Yeah, it was definitely not a really um. It was not a very fun way to see his career go down for the Legends for AI, but point blank was I think that those Sixers teams when Drew was on that team were pretty fun to watch, and so I was definitely a fan of his dating back then. But yeah, definitely happy about Horford and Holiday winning these rings. I will say, Porzingis, I have always been a fan of also. So he's another guy that like I'm happy for winning a ring. I wish that it could have been in the sense where like he wasn't hurt throughout like the run, but yeah,
Game
obviously
one
I
was
wish
a
it wasn't with the
cool
Celtics.
moment for him, though. So at least he had one
Yeah,
game.
game one was yeah, so at least he had one game. So I guess that was cool. Porzingis. Um, but aside from those three guys, having trouble thinking of like other like positives. Honestly, like
We
other
can move
players that
on
I like.
to Negatives. I mean, another last positive that I will say that we already talked about though is Jaylen Brown winning Finals MVP, so we don't need to go into that again. But let's go into
I was gonna say like it's cool that Jaylen Brown won, I guess.
Yeah, out of the two options, it's the lesser of the two evils, I think.
Oh, for sure, and it's not even close, honestly.
Yeah,
yeah. But moving on.
So those were the best outcomes. The worst outcomes is that the Celtics have their 18th banner, surpassing the Lakers, unfortunately. Who have 17 and a half, if you want to count the in-season tournament. Then I guess the happiness of Celtics fans, I guess that's one of my worst outcomes.
That is like
they have one of the worst fan bases. I saw on Twitter that during the parade they had like a mini cross with Kyrie on it. That was messed
I saw
up.
that,
dude. Like they are the worst. They are the worst, dude.
Yeah, I will say this. Boston is quite literally probably the least deserving city of a championship. That city does not deserve to win anything. And like I pretty much hate like all Boston sports teams, honestly. Like mostly the Patriots and the Celtics and the Patriots. But naturally speaking, I just can't stand any of them. And a lot of it does have to do with really annoying fans and spoiled fans, quite honestly. And during those years when the Celtics like didn't win much, like for example, the 16 years they didn't win dating back to 2008, or like even after winning this championship, they still only won 2 championships in damn near 40 years. And 11 out of their 18 championships were won in the 60s with Bill Russell. Meaning that like 7 of them were won like after that era. And like I was looking at like the league like format back then. All of those 11 championships, the max number of teams in the league was 12. And for a few of them, there was like 4 teams, 6 teams, 8 teams in the league. Like that literally doesn't really mean shit. There were so little teams. And yet when the Lakers tied the Celtics in 2020, they had so many excuses like, the championships in Minneapolis don't count because they're not in the same city. How about this?
It's the same team.
Yeah, and then they're like, you Lakers fans in LA, if you can survive a winter in Minnesota, then they can count. Because I guarantee you can't survive the cold there. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
They're not even talking about basketball. They're just coping.
Yeah, and quite honestly, like, I think I saw, like, Stephen A. Smith made a point. Like, he was saying that the Lakers are still the better franchise. And I will say Stephen A. Smith does have a lot of bad takes that I don't usually agree with, but that's one of them that I do agree with. Yeah. And like the reality is that the Lakers have been a lot more consistent throughout their history. They have won pretty much every decade in existence aside from the 90s. Like I think they won in 89 and then they didn't win another one until 2000. So it was just over a decade there. But aside from that, I believe they won one every single decade since the NBA's existence. Versus the Celtics that like literally had long ass stints of not winning after the 60s. They did not win anything in the 90s. They won one in the late 2000s, 2008, and then they didn't win anything in the 2010s, and then they finally won one this year. They had a lot more like empty droughts in between versus the Lakers were a lot more consistent throughout. So, yeah. And honestly, Celtics fans are a lot of past dwellers, hopers, and they just like to be in denial, quite honestly. Yeah.
And their city sucks compared to LA.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why the Celtics celebrated their championship in Miami and not in Boston, you know?
Yeah. And that doesn't make sense. Like, first off, they celebrated it in their rival city. The Heat is
I
their one of their
know.
bigger rivals. Like,
But Boston
I would
sucks
be
that
like,
much. That's why.
yeah, I would be laughing at them so hard. Like, quite honestly, if I was a Heat player, or if I was a Heat, I would tell them to get the fuck out of my city because you guys shouldn't be celebrating at my city. Like, what are we doing there? Yeah, that's sad. Honestly, they don't even want to celebrate in their own city.
All right, I've
Yeah.
got one last
Um.
question relating um to Miami. My bad. I'm just looking for
Yeah.
the exact quote. But Brian Scalabrine was talking to the Celtics, was talking to Jason Tatum, and he asked, "You guys have been on a lot of hard fought trips to Miami. Was this one a little sweeter?" Obviously referencing the Celtics partying in Miami. And then Jason Tatum said, "They're always easy." We literally just talked about this, but that's not true. Like the Jason Tatum led Celtics have lost to the Miami Heat several times in the playoffs, ruining their hopes of going to the finals several times. This
Right.
is literally not true, and I think it's weird that he would even say this because, like, how delusional do you have to be to possibly think that would be the case? So, not really a
Yeah.
question, but I did want to bring it up.
I feel like he was just absolutely clueless. Probably really hungover from celebrating, still
Maybe still
drunk,
drunk, yeah.
saying a lot of random stuff that even he doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about. Probably, yeah. Comments just make absolutely no sense. Like anyone in their right mind, probably even Celtics fans, would even say that the Heat are the one team that they probably feared the most and did not want to play against.
That's
And
why
they probably would
Celtics
even
fans
admit,
always talk about the Heat, even after the chip. They keep calling
always,
out Jimmy
yeah,
Butler as if he was playing this offseason or this postseason.
yeah, and he wasn't. Like, rent free in their minds. And you want to talk about they're always easy? Like, yeah, that's like about
Cringe.
as delusional can be. Yeah, weird. And, yeah, you mentioned about like Ryan Scalabrine comments, and there's another comment I wanted to bring up that was really dumb. I actually sent you that post earlier today. It was the Paul Pierce comment about the Lakers hanging the in-season tournament banner,
Yeah.
saying like if the Celtics won an in-season tournament, they would not hang a banner, but they would like do like a rug in the hallway or something instead. First off, like how stupid are you, Paul Pierce? Like
It's so
you not
stupid.
hear the Lakers literally
Get him.
made it clear
Get
publicly
him.
they did not want to hang that banner. The NBA made them do it. That's why they ended up hanging it. And like the fact of the matter is if the Celtics did win it, they would hang it also.
They
Like
would also be
you know it
forced.
too. Yeah, they would be forced to do it. So it's like what the hell is he talking about? I think he's just yeah, just jealous, coping, all that, you
Yeah,
name it.
he's just jealous
Um
because he played for a shit franchise. Like, that's why.
yeah, definitely. And I will say this, it is I will say it is definitely a bit annoying to me how in this I feel like for the NBA they low key won this year. Lakers win the in season tournament, Celtics win the championship.
True,
Either
true.
way would have gone like the two best franchises winning both of them was probably like a win for the NBA. For us, it should have been the other way around. It should have been
Yeah.
Lakers winning the real championship and the Celtics could have that in season tournament. Um, I was gonna make a joke, and like obviously this is not gonna happen. But like, what if down the road somehow, some way, in season tournaments are looked at more highly than the actual championship? I mean, That's
Not
not
gonna
very likely.
happen.
Imagine. Then you look back, damn, that was such an impressive in-season tournament by the Lakers. Yeah. I will say, even though that was not I will say this. I mean, obviously, we talked about our thoughts on all that, like the Lakers winning the in-season tournament when they did in the season. Um, I will say, even though it wasn't the real championship, they were able to add a different kind of trophy to their collection because they have won so many championships. So that's still cool for them on that end. But that being said,
I think.
I think we talked about most of the topics relating to finals.
Yeah.
Um,
So.
Point blank is it was a disappointing outcome at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and next season, hopefully better. Um, as mentioned earlier, the season had its ups, had its downs, but for the most part, it was a season, shall we say?
It was
Yeah,
one
I
of the
will.
seasons. Yes.
Yeah, it was one of the seasons. Um, Not the best outcome. Quite honestly, the worst outcome.
It
That's all
was
I got,
an
honestly.
NBA season. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Next year, Lakers
Next
winning it
season,
all. I'm calling it now.
yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. Next season, Lakers win it all. Immediately retie, and the following year, we're gonna regain the throne.
Let's go. But yeah, I think
Celtics. Yeah. I was gonna say Celtics. If you want, you can win the in-season tournament next year. We'll win the real championship. Flip the seasons.
all right. I think that's enough Celtics Mavs talk. Even though we barely talked about the Mavs, but that's what you kind of
Yeah.
get for losing the finals.
There wasn't a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there was it. There was it. So let's talk about just a couple NBA news. We won't go too in depth with it. But starting with JJ Redick is gonna be the Lakers' next head coach. We all know that they fired Darvin Ham, who was very disappointing. I really was not a fan of him, and usually I'm not like that guy where I'm like, we gotta fire this guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He can't coach. I'm not that guy. But when it came to Darvin Ham, I became that guy. I didn't like the lineups he was making. I felt like he did good during our run last year when we made it to the Western Conference Finals. But instead of building off of those lineups, he just was trying weird lineups throughout the season and could not figure out like a lineup that would work, even though we had a lineup that worked. So that was unfortunate. So now we are getting JJ Redick, who was rumored for a while that he was going to be the next Lakers coach. There was this other rumor that Dan Hurley was going to be the Lakers coach. He ended up rejecting a 6-year, $70 million offer to coach the Lakers, which I guess he wanted more. And compared to some other coaches, maybe wouldn't make sense because he would be a first-time NBA coach. Yeah, he has a lot of success coaching in college, but he's never coached in the NBA. So I feel like that's a fair price. But then again, if the Lakers really wanted him, they could have paid him a lot more. They could have offered him a lot more. So that ended up not working out. So JJ Redick will now be the coach of the Lakers, and I have some mixed feelings about this. Like, I'm willing to give this a try, but I feel like we're gonna be clowned on a lot because of this. I feel like this is a very LeBron coded decision, even though he will deny it as much as possible. But we know the history of LeBron and coaches. He usually doesn't like being coached. He likes out coaching the coach many times. And I feel like this is kind of his way of controlling the Lakers, is by getting his podcast mate to be the coach of the Lakers. So what are your thoughts on the Lakers signing, I guess, JJ Redick as their head coach? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you have some hope, or are you like me, who's kind of skeptical?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start off by going on the comments on Darvin Ham. So I agree. Last season I thought he was pretty good. The way he helped turn the season around from 2-10 to Western Conference Finals. All the credit to him for that last year. But this past season, as you mentioned, don't know what he was doing. Like, so many questionable lineups cost us probably like 10 to 15 games, quite honestly. And we should have for sure been like top 3, top 5 seed and somehow barely made the play in. So yeah, definitely Darvin's time was up there. And then as you mentioned, like Lakers were originally rumored JJ Redick from the start, and then came the Dan Hurley news, and then Dan Hurley rejected it. And like I could understand like he was building something really good with UConn. He wanted to have a chance at three-peating, so I don't necessarily blame him for not taking the job. But like who knows whether he had like a real genuine like consideration of wanting to maybe coach the Lakers initially, but it kind of felt like a waste of time in my opinion that we were like linked to him only to get rejected. I guess it was worth a try. But then again, now obviously we officially made up our minds and we hired JJ. I definitely have a lot of mixed opinions just like you do. And I will say this, the main pitfall that I have is the fact that he has no coaching experience at all. Because most of the time, these former players, they would at least start off by being an assistant coach and have some experience for a little bit before they actually officially become a head coach for a team. JJ, first off, he retired like 2 years ago, maybe, I think. 2, 3 years ago, something like that. And no coaching experience, already going to be a head coach. Very similar to like a Steve Nash type thing, or like Jason Kidd when he retired and immediately got hired as head coach by the Nets right after retirement. But yeah, a lot of the times these former players, head coaches that don't have any experience, they don't really go the greatest. There were a few that were like not horrible. Like Steve Kerr is one of the anomalies where he did not have any assistant coaching experience. Like obviously he was the front office role for the Suns for a long time. Um, Definitely a huge outlier. Steve Kerr is for one of those like really good head coaches that didn't have like official assistant coaching experience. Um, at the end of the day, I'm definitely willing to give it a shot. I hope that JJ can prove everyone wrong because like at this moment, I feel like not a lot of people have faith in him. And there's been a lot of memes because like obviously JJ and LeBron, they started their podcast on YouTube. It's like now it's literally they went from friends doing a podcast to a head coach and a player doing a podcast together. So now there's those memes like after a loss, like for example, how we blew a 20-point lead versus Denver. Like you can just imagine how badly they're gonna get clowned after that. JJ, I feel like he's definitely prepared. Like he probably even knows that he's gonna get a lot of hate by Lakers fans, especially knowing how crazy some Lakers fans are when like a player does bad or the coach bad, you name it. Um, yeah, I definitely see it coming, but I'm willing to give this thing a shot. And really hoping for the best. I think that there could have been better candidates out there, but we'll see. So obviously now, JJ gonna try to build his coaching staff, like who's the assistant coaches to join. And I think that definitely we can mention some candidates a little bit. I think that it would be cool if he could add in like Rajon Rondo to the coaching staff. Like
Yeah, that
obviously
was rumored.
Rondo played for the Lakers not long ago. Also close to LeBron now. This after those wars in the past. Um, and then another rumor was Jared Dudley. Obviously, he also played for the Lakers not long ago. And then he was on the Mavs coaching staff with Jason Kidd. Maybe he could be a good one too. He was a good locker room guy for the Lakers in the championship year and 2021. Scott Brooks, former head coach for the OKC Thunder. He was actually a pretty good head coach for the OKC Thunder. I absolutely would love to have him as a assistant coach, honestly. And then I think another candidate maybe was Sam Cassell from now on the Celtics currently. And Sam Cassell has been a long time assistant coach now and another former player. And he was also a candidate for head coach for a while also too. I think he definitely deserves to be a head coach someday in the future. If there is a way that we could like sway him away from the Celtics, that would be pretty good, honestly. But definitely, I think that JJ being a first-time head coach, having some like former head coaches on his staff definitely would help for sure. And I guess we'll see what happens there. But I think it's all about his supporting cast being there for him so that he can also learn from them. And then the Lakers constructing a team that will thrive off the system he likes to run. Because I know that I think what I heard was JJ saying that like he knows the importance of the three ball. I mean, that's not a surprise because he was a really high volume 3-point shooter during his playing days. So maybe he's gonna try to get the Lakers to sign some more shooters on the team. We'll see what happens there. Point blank is, I guess I'm okay with the move. See what happens. It's really hard to tell at the moment, but I guess I am interested in seeing what happened. Like, I would say excited, but like I don't know if I'm excited because I don't know how it's gonna go. So I guess I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah, I guess same. Like, I feel like excited is not the right word, but like, I'm fine with it. I
Yeah.
guess at the moment, I do feel bad for like JJ's mental health because we all know that he's kind of very like online. He goes on NBA Twitter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think in the finals he was teaching Doris Burke and Mike Breen like what was ethical scores, which is a term that we use in NBA Twitter, where like you score without having to use a lot of free throws. So like Embiid would be not an ethical scorer, so would Shea. But so that's what JJ was doing during the finals broadcast. So we all know how like online he is. So once the Lakers have a bad game, once JJ Redick makes a bad call, you know the Lakers fan are gonna attack him and go after him. So hopefully he doesn't open Twitter those days.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
we'll
hope not.
see what he does. How well he does. Hopefully he's the next Pat Riley, the next Steve Kerr, but it's hard to tell at the moment. But hoping for the best,
It is.
obviously, as a Lakers fan. But we can move on
Hope so.
to the last like little news story that we have for today, which is probably the dumbest thing I've heard in a while. Like, you thought Lakers fans were having a bad week. Imagine being a Bulls fan. Because this trade happened, I believe, yesterday. Alex Caruso was traded to the OKC Thunder for Josh Giddey. The Bulls did a 1-for-1 swap with OKC. Caruso's now going to be with OKC. And Josh Giddey is going to be with the Bulls. This is one of the dumbest trades I've heard in a bit. OKC fleeced them What are your thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, really bad trade for the Bulls. I honestly like. So I saw a lot of reports like last season. Apparently, they were fielding offers from other teams from Caruso, and I don't remember what exactly the offer was. Apparently, they had some good offers, and Bulls front office decided to decline it because they wanted to try to make a run for the playoffs. First of all, you were clearly not going to go anywhere, even if you made it. And then, even then, you failed to make it. So, like, why the hell are you guys trying to keep. Like, why are you even trying to keep him? Like, at that point, just try to build some draft compensation or something. Bulls are dumb. And
Bulls are
now,
very dumb. They
you
couldn't even
trade
do that
him
with
for
this
Josh
trade.
Giddey and no draft picks. Like, come on, man. Like, what are you guys doing? But yeah, the Bulls, quite honestly, are one of the worst front offices in the league. Maybe even the worst, honestly. I think the ongoing debate is who's worse between the Bulls front office and the Nets front office. Um, yeah, it's hard to say. It might be the Bulls now, honestly. But yeah, that was a really dumb move, really questionable for the Bulls to not even at least get like a few draft picks. Like even if they got like a few draft picks plus Josh Giddey, that would be a little bit better because they would get some like future assets. It'd still be kind of dumb, but like what they did, so one for one, I do not understand. But for OKC though, just an absolute robbery. And they add such a good, crucial piece to their roster on an already really good contending team who finished first in the Western Conference. And I can just imagine they're going to get only better next season. And I know, like, and that does not necessarily mean being the first seed again, but better in the sense like they could be going further than the second round. So point blank is really dumb move for the Bulls, really good move for the Thunder, and quite honestly, really good move for Alex Caruso. He is now on a contender once again, not on a rebuilding team anymore, and a chance to potentially maybe win another ring. So, shout out to AC, our former GOAT. I guess still a GOAT of a kind.
The bald eagle. He's going to OKC. You know what? I feel like this is like the West version of the Celtics because they got hella perimeter defenders now with Caruso, Shea, Luke Dort, the torture chamber. That's similar to the Celtics who had Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White. If you want to add Tatum in there, you can as well. They're just lacking like a really good wing, which hopefully J-Dub could be that really good wing. He was very disappointing this postseason, but he was good during the regular season, so maybe he will be that number two guy for OKC. But yeah, I like the moves for OKC for sure. I think this is definitely going to elevate them a lot more. Their team just got deeper. Maybe, you know, if they can acquire another big man to be like Chet's backup or a really or have another like really good power forward up there like a stretch four or somehow some way that'd be great for OKC and they might be like unstoppable in the West if they're able to pull that off. But right now they're looking really good. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they get the first seed again. And for the Bulls' sake, they should have got some type of picks. I think they denied like two picks for Caruso for one of the trade rumors this past trade deadline, and now they got zero for Caruso. That's so stupid. Like how brain dead of an organization are you for not getting a pick, a first round pick? Like that's what you need. You need to rebuild. Caruso is a hot commodity. Probably would have got the most value out of Caruso, even though you could trade DeRozan and LaVine. I believe a lot more teams would rather have Caruso just to have a better fit for their teams, and yet they folded. They instead went for the Predator, Josh Giddey, which, funny enough, DeRozan was at the Kendrick Lamar concert. We kind of watched it together online on my channel.
Yeah.
But and he was, singing along with Kendrick, certified lover boys, certified pedophiles, and now he has a certified pedophile on his team. That's so crazy. So I feel bad for the Bulls, really. Like this, I don't feel bad for the organization. I feel bad for the team, the fans. That's who I feel bad for. I don't know why I stuck it there, but yeah, that's who I feel bad for.
Yeah, there were definitely like a lot of funny memes and rainbow stuff though. There was another one. It was talking about like grades for the trade. OKC A+, and then Bulls A-.
That's
because they have
bro, like Josh Giddey, not only is he like a gross human being, but as a basketball player, he was awful for OKC during the playoffs. Like he was a starter, and then ended up getting benched, getting less and less minutes as the series continued against the Mavs. So this was one of the dumbest blunders the Chicago Bulls have done in recent history.
Really dumb, honestly. And like, I know that like, kind of like shying away, but like still in relation to the Bulls, like, if not for Michael Jordan, who knows where the Bulls would be in their history? Probably no championships, and really, really bad for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're definitely really blessed to have had Michael Jordan win them 6 championships.
For sure.
Which is enough to have them as the 4th most all time, which for a while they were 3rd behind Lakers and Celtics, which is kind of crazy how far behind the 3rd is from the 1st and the 2nd. But yeah, what were you gonna say just now?
I was just gonna say I feel like the Lakers should make a trade with Chicago. Maybe trade Cam Reddish and like a donut for Zach LaVine. I think the Bulls would be happy with that offer.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, like, the Lakers tax is fucking insane. Like, Lakers have to give up so much more than other teams in trades because teams don't want to help us. But hey, dumb front offices like the Bulls, you just never know. I mean, it doesn't.
Maybe 2 donuts.
Yeah. Hey, as that one famous saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So it's worth a shot to attempt.
Yeah.
So.
But I think.
Rob Pelinka, give it a try.
Give it a try, please. Like I'm sure they'll fold. But I think that's it for NBA news. Now we could. Or do you have any other comments before we move on?
Nope. I think we covered everything, and we are good to transition to our next segue.
So let's spin the wheel.
So, as Memo mentioned earlier, last week we did a spin the wheel, but because of some technical mic issues, unfortunately, we were not able to add that into our episode. So this week we are going to pretty much redo the format we did last week, and what we're gonna do is pretty much drafting via position, all-time version. So for example, the first spin is going to be point guard for each of our teams. Second spin, we pick the shooting guard. Third spin is the small forward. Fourth spin is the power forward. And the fifth spin will be the center. And per usual, if I were to land on a team that Memo already landed on, I cannot pick the same player that he picked. I believe that about sums up the rules. So, I'm trying to recall who's last week. Okay, so
Did you go last
I
week?
guess
Did you go first last week?
I think it was supposed to be technically. I think wasn't it our third spin
Yeah,
last
it
week,
was our
right?
third. So
Yeah, but
would
because that one technically doesn't count, this would be the real third spin.
yeah, yeah.
So I think you should I think it's still your turn to go first, and technically, since
Okay,
that one didn't
I
count.
think you're right. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it is my turn since last week
yeah, and I go first next
doesn't
week.
count. And last week was definitely our closest. Like we both had like one iffy player, but the rest were good. So
Yeah,
last week could have been a tie. So we'll say it was a tie
definitely
last week. But
for
let's
sure.
do this. Let me spin the wheel. The wheel has been spun, and I God almost had the Lakers. I almost was able to choose a point guard for the Lakers, but instead I got the
Yeah.
Magic. Huge downgrade, but I'll take Penny Hardaway as my
Okay.
point guard. Penny will be my point guard, and then are you ready to spin?
I am ready to spin.
So let's spin. Let's go. Ooh, you got the Rockets.
All right. So, point guard for the Rockets. Let's see. Thinking through my options real quick. Who were some of the greatest point guards for the Rockets all time? I think I'm gonna go with. Kenny Smith.
Kenny
I could have went with
Smith.
James Harden, but not a fan of that guy, so I'm not gonna take him. I'll take
Interesting.
another really good Houston Rockets player.
Okay. You could have had Chris Paul,
I could have.
Westbrook, but he was fine with
Yeah,
the Rockets.
it was still good. Yeah.
But okay, you got Kenny Smith on your team as your point guard. Let's see who I'm getting. Let's see. Uh, okay. Memphis Grizzlies
Shooting guard for the
shooting
Grizzlies.
guard.
Hmm.
Uh,
I think I can think of maybe like I can definitely think of at least one guy that was like pretty good shooting guard for the Grizzlies. I think.
okay, so I could stretch a bit and say like uh choose a point guard to be my shooting guard.
I mean, if you think he's capable, you could do that.
Like Jaw comes to mind, but he can't even shoot. Like he's more of a driver.
Yeah.
He's gonna be like Penny Hardaway out there. So I don't think I could go with him. Mike Conley is really good, but he's too short to play shooting guard.
Yeah.
Um, there's Mike Miller, which you chose in the past.
Yeah.
Eh, he could be a shooting guard.
He was really good at shooting. So
Yeah. So this is like my options here. This is what I'm thinking. I could either go full offense with Mike Miller, or go full defense with what's his name? Tony Allen.
Tony Allen. Oh, that's not bad either. Um,
So
I could actually think of one more guy that you didn't mention. I don't know
Desmond
if you can
Bain.
think of it.
Desmond Bain is really good. I actually might take him over
Maybe
Mike Miller. Not thinking about
Desmond
it.
Bain.
Yeah.
Okay. So Desmond Bain as your shooting guard.
I think so. I'll go for it because I do think he has the potential of being an all-star. We'll
He does
see.
have the potential. Yeah.
So I'll go with Desmond Bain, but I'm clearly forgetting someone if that's probably not who you're going for or who you were thinking of.
Yeah. I was thinking Shane Battier. Remember Shane Battier
Oh,
played for the
that's
Grizzlies?
a good
He was
pick.
really good.
That's a good
Yeah.
pick. I'm fine with Desmond Bain. I feel like I don't regret that pick, but maybe I
Yeah.
will. We'll
You could
see.
have maybe Rudy Gay maybe could have been an option. Um, OJ Mayo, even though he
Mm,
like later had problems, but yeah, definitely I wouldn't pick those. I wouldn't pick OJ Mayo.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, ready for your turn.
Yeah, I'm ready.
The wheel has been spun. Where will it land? Okay, the Hawks.
Okay, so um shooting guard for the Atlanta Hawks. Let's
Yep.
see. Trying to think. Uh hmm. Options. My position. Let's see. So they had a few pretty decent guys, I think. Let's see. Like Joe Johnson was pretty good.
That's an
Um,
underrated pick.
Pete, yeah, Pete Maravich was really good too. Um, and then at the moment, as far as shooting guard goes, somewhat blanking out a little bit. I think I have to pick between those two guys, either Pete Maravich or Joe Johnson.
You don't want DeJounte Murray?
And I mean, he's good. Um,
I was joking.
like, yeah. um, hmm. So you have to be probably between one of those two guys. I think I gotta go with Pistol Pete, honestly.
Okay.
Pete Maravich.
Ahead of his time. I respect it.
Yeah. Like, I didn't really get to see him play, but, like, if he's talked about, like, that much in the history books, trust.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Was flexing Dominique Wilkins in mine at all? Like, I know he was a small
Um,
forward, but
yeah,
did you consider that at all?
I was, like, thinking about that, but, like, I was just so unsure because, like, well, first off, I'm not super familiar with his game, so I don't know like how good he is at shooting.
Well, he's like
So then,
the best Hawk of all time, debatably.
yeah. So I thought about like flexing him. Maybe I should have done that. Pete Maravich was
Th-
also
that's
really good.
that's a
So
good pick though. Pete Maravich is a good pick.
I'm
I
okay
think
with
position
Pete
wise,
Maravich.
it makes a little bit more sense.
Definitely.
But yeah,
Thought I was gonna land on the Grizzlies also for a second.
that would have sucked. Okay,
Yeah, it would have.
my turn. I'm spinning the
All right.
wheel. Let's see which small forward I can get. What? The Pelicans.
Ooh, you were almost the Pistons like
Uh,
last week.
uh, okay. What did we say again with the Pelicans? Any, like, does the New Orleans Hornets count again? I forgot. That was a no, right? I couldn't pick Chris Paul that one time.
I think it was a no, right? Because yeah,
Okay.
because last time he didn't pick Chris Paul, I don't think.
So, I have to choose New Orleans
But the thing is,
Pel.
if you were able to pick the Hornets, do you think there was a player in mind that
I
you
don't
would
know. I
take
don't
though?
think
Because
so.
I'm not sure, right?
Yeah,
So maybe
this
you
one
would.
sucks a lot. You know
Yeah,
what?
I feel like the op kind of limited because even I can't think of a lot of guys at the moment.
Uh, for position wise, I think this guy is fine for
Unless you
his
want to.
job. So I was thinking about maybe putting Zion as a small forward, but he doesn't play like a small forward. So
Yeah, he's not a small.
I'm going Brandon Ingram as my small forward.
Okay, I think
Position
that's who I
wise,
would.
it makes sense. He's been an all-star. He's just not a
Yeah.
flashy name that I would like. But yeah, when it
Hmm.
comes to New Orleans Pelicans, there's not a lot of options.
Yeah, there's not a lot of options because this is a new franchise. And the thing is, like, even if you were to integrate New Orleans Pellet or New Orleans Hornets, I still don't know. Like, honestly,
Yeah, but let's spin
Trevor Ariza.
Trevor Reese. I forgot about him. Uh,
I mean, he was
all right, your wheels being
good, but
spun.
like, yeah,
Chicago Bulls. You're choosing a small forward. I feel like this is pretty good.
yeah. Let's see. I mean, there's a few options, maybe. Um, you know.
I'm wondering what you're gonna do.
I'm thinking, putting Michael Jordan at the small forward.
Damn, I was afraid you were gonna do that. I'm
Yeah,
interested how that
because
would
he's
play out.
capable.
But yeah, he is
Yeah,
capable.
look, um, it's very interesting how that would play out indeed. I think he could do it, honestly.
Damn.
Because, like, if we're talking, like, more natural, probably Scottie Pippen as that natural small forward. Like, Michael Jordan, he can do it. I gotta go with the GOAT, Michael
Damn.
Jordan.
You got Michael Jordan
Yeah.
on your team and I have Desmond Bain, bro. This is not fair.
I was gonna say, like, imagine if I took Dominic Wilkins as shooting guard and then Michael Jordan as small forward, and
And
then they
just
swapped
switch,
positions.
bro. That would have been
Would've been funny.
crazy.
Yeah, but it's okay. I'm fine with pistol Pete.
Yeah, I feel like at the moment you're in the lead. I'll say that. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not over.
Yeah, it's
Don't know
not
how the
over.
last two picks go.
Watch me get Tim Duncan. Let's go. Oh my god.
Washington Wizards.
Bro.
Power forward. Hmm.
Oh my god. I have to choose from this sorry ass franchise. Dude. You know what?
Oh.
Stretch forward. We're doing small ball. Give me Gilbert Arenas. I,
Gilbert Arenas as a power forward.
how tall is he? Let me look that up.
Um. Let me look it up for you. Okay. Um. Okay. Let me. Okay. First off. Just to give you a little bit of background.
Never mind. He's
Gilbert
only
Arenas was a
6'4".
point guard. Yeah.
I thought he was
Are
a
you
small
sure you want to
forward.
put him Are you sure you want to put him at the four?
No, not anymore.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
Oh, you know what? Did Antoine Jamison play for the Wizards?
He did, yeah. I'm surprised that you remember that.
I think I'll go with him. Did he do well with the Wizards, or was it with a different team?
Well, he certainly played better for some other teams, but I believe he was pretty good for the Wizards too.
I'm already lost. Let me just choose Antoine Jamison.
Okay. I'm kind of shocked that you remember he played for them, not gonna lie.
That one just came to me somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. It's not bad, honestly. All right, Antoine Jameson for your power forward.
Actually, now looking at his stats, he was decent. 20 points per
Ah,
game.
good.
For the Wizards, he was
Mhm.
pretty good.
Yeah.
And he played power forward, small forward, so I have a decent power forward on my side.
Yeah. Mhm.
No Michael Jordan, but it is what it is. All right,
Yeah.
your wheel is being spun.
Okay. Warriors power forward. Let me see. Contemplate my options real quick. Um, who were some of the Warriors' top power forwards? I'm trying to think real quick. Did Lee play for them? Eh.
The fact that David Lee was the first name that came out of your mouth was not what I was expecting.
I'm just thinking of the championship Warriors teams, not gonna lie. That's I listed. Um, I'm not gonna pick him, by the way. I was just listing a guy. Um, hmm. I'm trying to think potentially about like flex options, shall we say. Um, I'm trying to. Oh, I think um power forward for the Warriors. I'm gonna go with Chris Webber.
Chris Webber was not the name I was expecting. Good player though.
Yeah. Because his natural position was center, but actually he was a power forward slash center. Um, so yeah, I think I'll take him.
Okay, I would have personally chose Draymond over Chris Webber, even though I don't like Draymond. But the defense is
Yeah.
crazy. I would have also stretched it out and done Kevin Durant as a power forward.
I didn't even think about that honestly, because that's such a major stretch. But he
It's
definitely
not
would be
that big
capable,
of a
though.
stretch. He's a 7 foot guy that can shoot threes like crazy. He could play power forward.
It's just that, like, since he's such a good shooter, you think of him as more of like a two or a three. So I didn't really even think about him
He's
as a
too
four,
tall to be a
honestly.
2.
Yeah, he's too tall, but he is also a really good shooter.
Yeah. But okay, you got
Yeah.
Chris Webber. Now I'm gonna choose my center. Let's see where it's landing. Give me Kareem. Give me. Huh. Uh. Okay, Dominic Wilkins was a small forward, so I'm not gonna pick him. Who, who else played for Atlanta?
Who did you say? Who did you say you were not gonna pick? Your mic kind of chopped off a little bit on my end.
Wilkins because he was a small forward.
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, that would make sense not to take.
Dude, I already lost. Uh I can't think of a good center other than the champ, Al Horford. So I guess I'll go with him.
Yeah, not bad.
Was there better options? Do you believe?
Um, I'm personally kind of blanking out too on the Hawk centers, honestly. So I for sure would have taken him.
Okay, cool. So that's a good sign for me, I guess. But you guys let us know if I
Yeah.
forgot someone.
Unless you wanted to take like Clint Capella or something.
No, thank you. John Collins. No, thank you. All right, your
Yeah.
final
Oh,
spin.
Hongwu.
I hope you get Kendrick Perkins. Utah Jazz.
Okay. Utah Jazz. Um, I mean, there's a very obvious pick, right? Um,
Which
let me
is
like just real quick in case. Um, yeah. I think it has to be Karl Malone. Honestly, there's no other
Nasty man.
option. Yeah. Setting aside his off-court talents, this is about on-court.
Yeah,
So,
I
the
guess.
mailman.
The mailman. I just
For
just out of spite, I think I would have gotten Rudy Gobert. Uh, but you definitely chose the better player. That's for sure.
yeah. Out of spite was the reason I didn't take James Harden.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So okay, let's go
Yeah,
over our teams. You can go first. So who are on your lineup?
so for my point guard, I got Kenny Smith. For shooting guard, I got Pistol Pete Maravich. For small forward, I got Michael Jordan. For power forward, I got Chris Webber. And for center, I got Karl Malone. So my team is pretty much fully consisted of pretty much old school heads. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
Onto your team, Memo.
your team is interesting. You definitely have the best players, but it's definitely an interesting mix. But my team consists of Penny Hardaway, Desmond Bain, Brandon Ingram, Antoine Jameson, and Al Horford. I feel like my team consists of like everybody here is like a good solid second option. None of these guys are like the number one guy for a championship team. So they're like consistent throughout, but I don't know. I don't know if I would say I'm a winner here. I think I'd give it to you. I think you won this one just solely off of getting MJ, and Malone is a good pick as much as I don't want to talk about him.
Yeah, I think that for you, you had to think outside the box a little bit on some of the teams that you landed on. Like, for example, the Grizzlies, I know you were having trouble
I
picking a
was
guy.
unlucky.
Um, yeah, the Pelicans, the guy you got wasn't bad, but I know like you were limited. Then, Wizards, you were having a hard time, and then suddenly out of nowhere, you actually thought of someone that wasn't bad. So good job there. You could have gotten someone worse, honestly. Actually shocked that you remembered Anton Jameson played for the Wizards. Good job. You
Thank
got
you.
someone
Thank you.
actually pretty good there. Yeah. Memo does have some good back players history. So
Yeah, there's a reason
yeah.
why I started a basketball podcast. I know ball a bit.
Yeah. We know some history. So
Yeah, we
yeah,
know
there's that.
something.
Yeah, for sure. Um, that was pretty fun and interesting there. I believe we pretty much completed our episode. Right?
Yeah.
Um, mentioning the season recap. And then afterwards, a little bit of around the league recently news, and then our pretty much now weekly spin the wheel. And next week, we will, of course, do another spin the wheel with another twist, which we will keep as a surprise for you guys. So
Mm-hmm.
stay tuned there. Our next episode will definitely do something fun. Definitely stay tuned there too. We want to probably leave it as a little bit of a surprise,
Yeah.
just so that way you guys um curious to see what happens there. But it's definitely gonna be fun. Now that the season is actually over, it comes the off season to prepare for the next season. Obviously the draft is very soon, and then shortly after the draft is free agency, and after free agency is gonna be the summer league, And then this year, the Olympics, and after the Olympics, training camp, preseason, and the regular season. So yeah, there's definitely not going to be much of a shortage from basketball despite the off season. So
True.
should be pretty fun and interesting. And definitely make sure you guys stay tuned. If you like our content, please like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify and all our other platforms. Also check out our TikTok page. Recently, Memo has definitely been uploading a lot more TikTok episodes and with some very cool, fun little content there, as well as our YouTube shorts. So stay tuned about those. And definitely thank you guys for the support. We really appreciate it and are very grateful for everyone that's been with us since day one or hopping on the wagon for their journey. So thank you guys for all that.
Yeah. I really appreciate it. You know, we put a lot of work into this every week. It's been very fun doing this every week. And the fact that, like, we just finished our first season, I think is a really cool, like, accomplishment. Like, we weren't most consistent, but for the most part, we got episodes out every week. And I think we've been getting better and better throughout the season. And this off season, as I mentioned, we might not be as consistent as we've been these last couple months due to, like, you know, it's summertime. We got plans and stuff, but, like, we got a lot of cool ideas for content that I hope you all are gonna tune in for because they're gonna be fun. I guarantee it.
For sure. And yeah, this season, I will say, for a premiere season was really fun and quite frankly it went by pretty fast,
It
not
did.
gonna lie. Yeah, it did. Um we were on to our like 26th episode and couldn't tell honestly. Like it went into Zoom, went into Flash.
Uh huh.
But we look forward to the very many ahead and it's gonna be exciting.
It will be.
So thank you guys again.
Yeah. Thank you all. We'll see you all next week. And yeah. Bye bye. Later.